Hi everyone, welcome to my studio. Hi, welcome. Me, I think, yeah, I think that's better. Is that a better angle for you all? And let me add some lighting. Too much lighting. There we go. Okay. So I have been working on this piece for a few years. If you're new, I might be working on it for a few more years, but I did get these small canvases. They're made with cotton and gesso, and they're good for watercolor and oil and acrylic. And so I'm going to start doing some smaller pieces that I can start selling, because I'm probably not going to sell this painting. But I do want to start making more stuff that I can share with everyone in other ways. And when this painting is done, I'll probably make some prints of it or something. But yeah. So I do a lot of wet on wet. I I like dry brush too, but what I'm really working on in this piece is this technique of like really high saturation wet on wet, which means that I go over an area to make a certain shape, usually starting with almost just water, like this kind of shade where there's just a tiny bit of pigment in there. And then you add pigment to it. So you take the paint usually right from the bottle if you want really intense pigmentation like this, and then you drop it into the water, and the water spreads it. And there's a lot to that technique, which I've mostly been demonstrating. And yeah, and then you let it dry, and then you keep doing it, and it creates some very cool effects. So let's see, what are my greens that I'm working with? This is an olive green. I'm trying to add some new pigments to this because I've been working with the same palette, by which I mean the same group of pigments, for so long that I just want to like mix it up. This is called May Green. I'm not sure. Let's see. Let's just play with those two and see what happens. And so watercolor is a lot of experimentation, largely because you can't really undo anything. Like there's like a few things you can do to minimize like damage control if you did something you didn't mean to do, but they're all imperfect. Watercolor is permanent and transparent, so whatever you put on the canvas is probably going to stay there, which I really love about it. And I think it's really good for people like me who get a little OCD, and sometimes you like if you kind of have the kind of perfectionism that is crippling. It's like not helpful. It can help you get over that, because you just have to learn to accept the decision that you made. You put the paint on the palette, and it looks the way it looks. And then you learn how to oh, that's a pretty color. That's very similar to the color that I was mixing, but it's a little different, and that's great because that should like add some depth, like I was talking about. I'm using my little tiny detail brush. Someone recommended the script brush. I have been using it a lot. I think it's really fun, but I'm using it in the larger areas. I mean, they're relatively large. They're still small, but I do work in like really, really fine detail. Sometimes that like this brush is just way too large compared to this one for the areas I'm trying to go over. I was in a really bad mood. I was in a really bad mood today. Don't love this holiday, but I'm trying to like stay stay positive within reason. It's my daughter's first Thanksgiving, so I'm trying to like put my feelings about it to the side a little. And anyways, I was not feeling great, but I feel better as soon as I get on here and start talking to everyone here, and not only working on art, but also working on building my community here. So thank you for being here. And my first thought is like, oh, that's a much darker green than I want to work with, but this area is way too light that you can barely see it. So, you know, I like the color that's beneath it, but I do need to break out of that palette and add some deeper tones. So let's go in with some of that May green. I'm not sure if I will like it. If not, I'll add in a bunch of the other pigment that I know I like, but let's see. Oh no, that's pretty. And it definitely had the effect that I was hoping for of kind of against that dark olive green below it, it kind of pops. Usually when you drop in, so even though this is just this teeny tiny line, you might not think of it this way, but it is still a wet on wet section because I'm still working with the osmotic pressure and diffusion of the pigments through the water within this small area, which is kind of what defines that technique, this technique, the wet on wet technique. I'm going to add some yellow to this. I don't want to do cadmium. I want to do the lemon yellow, of course, but it's such an important color in this piece that it is a good idea to just keep dropping it back in to keep bringing, to keep tying the piece together. So as I'm adding in these new pigments that I'm playing with, I'm also focusing on continuing to incorporate the pigments that I've been working with that kind of define the palette already, and that should help tie it all together. When you're working in oil or acrylic, white paint is very important to create negative space, and that has to do with, like, in those mediums you generally start with the shadows, the darker areas, and then you add back the highlighted areas. But with watercolor, of course, you can't do it that way. So all that is to say that I kind of have been using this lemon yellow in a similar way that I might use white if I were working in oil or acrylic. So I bring it in to make areas more of a highlighted area usually after having dropped in a darker pigment. And usually, I was going to say earlier, usually with this wet on wet technique, it's the darker areas that get pushed out to the edge. And then this is just that sap green and lemon yellow, so I still have a lot of that green I've been working with. But then here I'm like, yeah, but it's too light, so I am going to drop in some of this May green. A lot of times I don't know how I'm really going to feel about a color or a pigment. I use those words interchangeably because I don't really know what it's going to look like until I actually put it on the paper and see how it interacts with the pigments that are already there through that translucency, or by mixing on the palette if it's wet on wet like this. And I'm going to use a little gradient technique here where you add some water that just touches the edge of where you just put that pigment, and it's such a small area, I'm not sure if you can see it, but right away some of the darker olive green from here started pooling into this area. I'm going to add some water to this area too that I also want to add more green to. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to drop in more of that olive green. And you should be able to see the lips more clearly after I do this too, and a lot of things should be clearer in the face. Because I'm working with such delicate line work in this area, it kind of makes it, I think, more important to use low lights and like shadow space to flesh it out. Yeah. And it was good to show you that technique, but I do want more pigment in this area, so I'm not just going to leave it with that diffusion, although I probably will do, I'm going to start doing tutorials and demos going over technique more specifically like that. Those are going to live over on my YouTube and on my subscription only page on TikTok. And I'm also going to start, I decided I'm going to start uploading the recordings of these live sessions also to that subscriber only area. So so those are some of the features I'm planning on adding to that as I kind of build it up. I know there's like rumors about TikTok going away, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, do you guys see it happening? I just feel like yeah, we'll see, but I'm not getting that impression. I started my Lemonade to, you know, be safe, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But I just feel like this app is so popular. I just don't see, and it's probably has the GDP of like a sizable country. Yeah, I don't see that happening, but adaptability is the name of the game, right? So anyways, I'm gonna keep building up my subscription page here, under the assumption that I'm making that it's probably not gonna go anywhere, but please check out my Lemonade and YouTube anyways, because it's, you know, always, you know, I'm definitely gonna have slightly different content in different places to keep it interesting. I mean, overlapping, but it might be a little different. Like I said, the videos that I do on the subscription only page, I'm going to make available for free on the YouTube, because I'm working towards doing ads over there. So so there's a way for you to see all of my content for free, but I am, you know, working it out in a way that I can also help support myself with this. And I really love having the platform to connect with people. If you're new, I'll say it, but if you've heard me say this before, feel free to tune out. But like, we didn't have platforms like this when I was in my, well, I mean, Facebook started when I was in college, but like there wasn't anything like this for a while that made it so easy to connect with and share your work with so many people, and the live streaming. And I was kind of slow to adopt it, but also because it was kind of new tech to me. So all of that to say, I think it's amazing that yeah, I have not stopped being in awe of like how powerful it is as an artist to be able to connect with so many people and share my work in such a way that was just literally beyond my wildest dreams not very long ago. Welcome. If you're just coming, feel free to drop a comment. Yeah. So I'm really glad I ventured into doing a deeper deeper tones for this green area, because like I said, it's just such a thin area that outlines the antler of this Giselle, and the way that this purple matches the color of the sky, it would just be so easy to kind of lose it. So I think that's going to help. I'm going to keep adding some more. I'm going to let that dry for a minute, but then I'm going to come back and add more of the lemon yellow, because I feel like it's going to take a few layers. So I want to let it dry, because especially when you're working in such a fine space, because like I said, you can do the wet on wet technique, like on large, you can do a wet on wet. You can cover the whole canvas, which is another demo I'm going to do at some point. But but when it's a really small area like this, you do want to be sure that you aren't dropping in too much water with the pigment you're dropping in, because if you've been watching for a while, you've seen me do this a couple times. Sometimes the pressure of the water builds up and it breaks through the osmotic pressure that's holding it in that shape, and that tension breaks and it spills out of the area you're working with. And again, that's one of those trial and error things. You might hear some whistling in the background. That's some soup I'm making. I'm making some broth for our Thanksgiving today. I'm gonna make, instead of getting a whole turkey, we got like 4 turkey legs and the breast all butchered, and it was like way cheaper than even getting like a small turkey. We're gonna smoke the legs. My husband's gonna smoke the legs. I'm gonna bake the breast with some herbs. I'm gonna do some mashed sweet potatoes, sweet potatoes. I'm gonna use some fried potatoes. I have an acorn squash. I'm probably just gonna cube and roast with some oil and sugar. I think that's. Oh, and I have some cabbage. I'm gonna make stuffing. I made bread, and I'm gonna make stuffing with it, and there's gonna be some sausage in the stuffing, and I'm going to make one more thing. I'm gonna make some cabbage. I'm gonna cook some red cabbage with some bacon. What do you guys have planned for Thanksgiving if you're doing Thanksgiving? Okay, so I'm happy with this area. Like I said, I really need to let that dry before I add any more of that lemon yellow, which I said I use. Oh, I have been using a lot in this piece to brighten areas up, and kind of like you would use white in another medium. I was gonna turn my canvas, but I actually decided to just scoot it a little so you guys can see better that I'm gonna go into this section, but I want to work on this tree a little. Yeah, so I was saying earlier, I really don't like Thanksgiving. I really don't like Thanksgiving, but it's my baby's first Thanksgiving, and I'm really trying to have a good day, even though I have my thoughts and feelings about it. And those thoughts and feelings are valid. And if you also have some thoughts and feelings about not liking Thanksgiving, that's valid. I'm gonna try to make some yummy foods anyways, and honor the native people of the United States, including some of my ancestors who unfortunately I don't know a lot about because of cultural genocide and boarding schools. So yeah, I really don't like Thanksgiving, but I'm trying to find a healing space in it anyways. Okay. So I think making foods like squash and whatnot that are indigenous to the United States is one way, as long as you're being like honest with yourself about what this day is really about. And maybe we can make it more about truth and reconciliation, and less about, perpetuating lies about this country and who we are and all of that. I'm really happy with that work on that part of the acacia tree. I'm going to turn that stove down because that whistling is... Whew. It's coming along, but it's going to take all day because that chicken was raw when I started working on that broth. It's going to be a long process, but I need to add some of those herbs, some of that sage and rosemary and thyme. We got one of those, little packets with the fresh herbs. That's been so good. It was hard to even save enough, honestly, for today, because it was so nice having those aromatics to cook with. So I accidentally dropped a little bright green there, and I was like, oh, I could wipe it up, and I decided, I'm actually just going to spread it out like this, and that looks good. I had an olive green over here earlier, but it was a different olive green, and it wasn't called that, although I think most people would call it an olive green. So I've gone over this. Some of you have seen me go over this area so many times with the same color, and I kind of was having the thought myself of like, is it actually changing anything? And that's part of why I think like it's not exactly at the depth and intensity of color and like spectrum in the palette that I really want for this piece. And I decided that to get there I needed to start adding more pigments in. So like I said, there was already an olive green, but this is like a different shade of olive green. Now it's mixing with the olive green that I had there, and I think that's contributing to this effect that I want. Hey everyone, if you could, tap the screen if you're here, let me know that you're enjoying my work. I really appreciate you being here. Hi Scott. Let me know if you have any comments. It's a little hard for me to check the screen, but I am checking. I hope everyone's having a good Thanksgiving. I hope you're finding a healing and restorative justice space for your head and your heart today. I hope you're nourished, and I hope you feel safe and loved, and like it's okay for you to feel joy, and it's okay for you to feel sad. And just being grateful to have the freedom to have these hard conversations about who we are and where we come from, and to whatever side of it we're on, if you're kind of on both sides of it like I am, maybe acknowledging the need for forgiveness and saying, wow, I'm so sorry for what my ancestors did. Maybe I'm sorry for some of the things people I know are still doing, depending on who you are. Not to get real heavy, but I think you guys know what I mean. And the part of me that relates to the other side of it, I try to give permission to just be grateful to be alive, and to hear those apologies from myself and from others. So like I said, for me, I relate to both sides of it. A lot of people do. But, if you're on one side or the other, I hope that this is a day of truth and reconciliation and healing. Yeah, so I think I'll probably keep working on this painting for like another few years probably, but I was saying I got these little 4x4 canvases, so I'm gonna start doing some smaller pieces that won't be as time intensive, and that I'm obviously really attached to this painting, so I don't think I want to sell it, but I'm gonna do a series that I do with the idea that those pieces are going to find other homes. And I think I'm going to do wildflowers. I have some photos from a couple summers ago where I was hiking, I think in the Black Forest in Colorado with my dad, and in the spring, and there were just some amazing wildflowers. I got a photo that I took of just like a perfect columbine. Like it looks like, it's just crazy. It's like looks like a painting of what a Colorado columbine should look like. It's really a cool photo. So I think I'm gonna spend some time like painting, focusing on native plants to Colorado, and those photos that I took, I'm going to start with as reference photos. I'm going to paint them on those little 4x4 canvases I just showed you, and those I think I want to make available for people to purchase if they want, and I hope to make some prints soon. I used to use Redbubble, but I think that I would, in this iteration of this, I think that I would rather wait until I've built this part of the business up enough where I've built up my audience and I'm doing the live streams and when things start to pick up that way enough that I feel like I can invest in buying some prints and selling them out of my own Shopify or TikTok shop or something, or all of those. So I'd like to build up to that. And this is definitely a painting I'd love to make prints. I really love keeping the originals, not only because I'm really attached to them, which I definitely am. That's definitely part of it. But also, like, I just love the idea of putting so much into one piece and then making it so that I'm really happy with it, and then a lot of people can enjoy it, because it's great to, give or sell a painting or a piece of art to one person, and you get to know that they get to, really engage with it because they bought it, so they chose to, like, identify with it and invest in it and invest in you, and that's really special. But I also love the idea of, like, maybe you sell it and someone gets to keep it in their home, but also you get the rights to the print so that you can make it available for lots of people with different price points, if they want to be able to also share in that experience. But yeah, I didn't love Redbubble. Yeah, I think I would rather wait till I can have, like, more control over that part of things. That yellow actually washed that out too much, that I lost some of the intensity, the pigment I was going for. But not to worry, because it being lighter than I expected, that's, like I said, with watercolor, you always work from lighter colors to darker, so that's easy to fix. There we go. Much better. So you can see what I mean about, like, working with the water element, because you step away and it looks one way. You come back a few minutes later and you're like, that totally had a mind of its own when it was drying. And, like, it did have a mind of its own. So it gets to a point with this way of doing it that the pigment starts to get saturated. And you know how I say you can reactivate the paint? Usually you can only reactivate it on the porcelain palette or something like that. But, this is cotton paper. It's super absorbent. So when the paper absorbs the pigment, you generally can't move it. But it gets to a level of saturation that when the water touches it, it kind of reactivates it, which is a super fun property of this really high pigmentation style of wet on wet and dropping pigment in technique. I think that's where it comes. So when I came over here, it accidentally reactivated some of this red, and I just went with it, and then I pulled this really super fine red line up using the pigment that was in excess that was reactivated. So it's sitting on top of the paper now, and as opposed to these areas where it's absorbed into the paper. And that's part of this technique, is playing with that property. But it is a whole other thing, because all the rules about, like, you know, that's part of where I say you can't erase, but you can, like, manipulate the pigment a lot. That's what I'm talking about. It's pretty wild. Watercolor's wild. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of trial and error. Like, I can explain a lot of the intellectual concepts as far as, like, the physics and the chemistry of how the water and the pigments interact to do the things that they do. But, you know, it's an art, and if it's something that you want to learn, definitely just start, because that's how you learn, is by doing it. And if you just, like, enjoy watching me paint, I think that's awesome also. So how about those UFOs? It's been an interesting time to be alive, my friends. I think they're friendly. That's my 2 cents. And I'm really glad they're here, because I mean, I think most people are cool, honestly, but there's some folks that are real out of control. And I'd be real cautious, honestly, of people that try to scare you about them, because I think that's more concerning than anything else. I do feel like this is almost done. Like, I feel like this green area, when I start to feel like I am going over it and it's not changing a lot, even when I added these kind of different green pigments to the mix, I think that is like the painting starting to tell me that we're getting close to wrapping it up. So I said I was going to work on it for another 5 years or something, but probably not. I think I might finish it this week, or, you know, the next week or two. Welcome everyone who's here. Drop some hearts. Let the algorithm know. Thank you. Yeah, if you're here and you're enjoying my work, please tap the screen and let the algorithm know about your feedback. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I forgot to hook up my microphone, I'm just realizing, and I know sometimes it's a little hard to hear what I'm saying, so I'll try to speak up a little bit since I just realized I'm not wearing that. I didn't think I was going to go here with this, but I just want to say that, like, oh, I think, not even sure. Yeah. I was going to say the freedom to seek reconciliation and truth and justice, they're not freedoms anyone can take from you. That's it. We all have the freedom to seek truth and healing and reconciliation and restorative justice or justice. Those are God-given human aspects. No one can force you to not choose to seek truth and healing and reconciliation and justice. Anyone who says differently is trying to trick you into giving your power away. And you must be pretty powerful for people to be trying that hard to convince you otherwise. So this is America. Let's be clear-eyed about it so that we can move forward. These lives are really wild because I can't really tell how many people are on here. Sometimes it'll show me that 10 people just logged on, but it'll say that no one's in the room and I can see people are in the room, and but I was thinking maybe I won't post the recording of this one because I was talking about such serious things, but I'm going to try to put it out there anyways. I'm going to try to not censor myself so much. I know we all need to be careful with that stuff right now, but I'm also, like I said, it's really important to remember that you always have the freedom to choose to seek truth and to speak the truth and to seek healing and reconciliation and justice. Hi, Frogger. Hi, Indy. Welcome to my studio. Grab some art supplies or some arts and craft supplies or some water or some tea. We're hanging out. We're doing art. Oof. All of my greens just kind of accidentally got more mixed than I intended on the palette. Which makes it a little hard to do some of the techniques that I was doing, but it's okay. It's just, like I've said, another way of mixing pigments besides doing it on the canvas, which is kind of my preference. That's also how I use oils and acrylics when I used acrylics. I never was really into acrylics. I had, some art classes I took that was what we were expected to use, and that's what I used. But I learned oils first. My grandma was a professional painter, so she taught me with her supplies, and she used oils. I don't really use oils anymore because they're very toxic, just like watercolors are too, but watercolors are much easier to keep in a nice controlled area, and then you have the heavy metals in the pigment that are still dangerous if you don't handle the paints carefully with watercolor. But with oil you have turpentine, or even the terpenoid, like the turpentine alternatives that are relatively less fumey and stuff. There's still a lot. So I had a strong instinct to stop working with them about when I started this piece and started focusing back more on watercolor, and then it turned out that was just shortly before I got pregnant. So, and that was after 10 years of struggling with not being able to do that. So like, yeah, I definitely think it was like my angels or spirit guides, you know, telling me that I needed to work with a safer, less toxic medium. So I miss oil sometimes, but I don't miss, and then having a kid around, I really don't recommend working with oils until your kids are a little older, because they really can be dangerous like that. I mean, they're not dangerous, but yeah, but they're dangerous to kids because they are too little to know how to work with them carefully. So not to scare anyone, but you know, do be careful. Because you know, we have like non-toxic kid safe paint for a reason, because not all paint is non-toxic and safe for kids. Yeah, so if you want a print of this piece, because I do get the sense I'm gonna finish it soon, let me know. And if you pay for the cost of printing up front, then I'll have it produced and then I can ship it to you when I get the rest of the payment or something like that, so that I can, if you're interested, let me know if you're willing to help me with, like I said, I don't have the overhead right now for that kind of thing, but I would really like to make prints available when I can, and that's one way that I could do it sooner. You know, if someone really wants a print, you can help me with the production of it. So I don't know, if it costs $10 to do a print, you know, maybe I'll charge you $15 or $20, and I would just need you to pay it up front so that I had the money to actually have it made. So let me know if you really want a print of this. I can definitely figure it out, and if enough people express interest, then I can look into having you know, a batch produced. I think I'm gonna try to get a little nap in before my daughter wakes up from her nap and before the cooking fest continues. I hope that you all had a really good morning. Thank you for joining me today. Please drink some tea or water to go with your coffee, or some liquid IV or something. You know, yeah, stay hydrated. However you like to stay hydrated. Don't just drink coffee, even though it's fun. And yeah, I wish you all a sorry, there's a hair there. It's spreading it's spreading the green somewhere I don't want it. Okay, I'm gonna make it worse trying to fix that. I hope everyone has a peaceful, fulfilling, restorative, honest, and loving Thanksgiving. All right, see you next time.